What's up, guys? Joe from the AZ Westside Wheelers here. Today we are going to check out this new series from Nilight. Nilight Pro-Nixmen Series. Stick around, we're going to do an unboxing, install, and then we're going to go check it out on the trail and see how it does. Alright guys, let's get these lights opened up and see what's inside the box. Okay. Nice packaging foam. Here are your instructions. And they're not too bad. They're pretty decent instruction, along with a listing and a QR code. Now, these lights are an aluminum housing, which they are really strong, and they're not cheap. They don't seem like little flimsy cheap lights. There's a silicone seal around here, 85 watts, which is kind of what drew me to these. Normally on LED lights, they're a lot less wattage, and they don't put out as quite as high a watt. These have flood spot combo. So with 85 watts and the Osram chips, they have 10,000 raw lumens and 8,300 effective lumens. We're gonna see what that translates out on the trail to, if it's gonna be a lot brighter than what we're thinking it is, or if it's really, really not. I'm guessing with that kind of wattage and that kind of lumens, these things are gonna be super bright on the trail. Stick around to the end of the video. That's when we're gonna do the unveiling of what it looks like on the trail. Right here we have all your hardware needed, Allen keys included, and a nice thick wiring harness. This doesn't seem real thin wired, flimsy, along with a switch. In case you don't have some type of switch setup to hook these up, we actually have a switch pod set up under the hood that we can hook this to, but we're gonna show you how to use this also to get everything hooked up properly, and that way you can install it and get on down the road. So, stick around for the install. That's coming up. All right guys, so now we're gonna go to the front and install this. Here's your bracket, nut. They even threw in a nylock nut. They're stepping up their game with this Nixmen series. The Nilight Pros are actually a really step up from what they used to be. So you take this is gonna be a 17 millimeter, along with this, also 17 millimeter, and you're just gonna install that right like that, and then you just tighten it up. You can just kind of hold it in place, and there you go. Nice and tight. Move on to the next one. Okay, for this next part, you're going to need 13 millimeter and the Allen keys provided in the kit by Nilight. What you're going to do is you're going to take this big one through here, washer, and then another nylock nut. Kind of a double-edged sword on these nylock nuts. They are very nice for not backing back out, but they're kind of a pain to install. They're real tight the whole way down. As you're trying to seat them and screw them in, they're just tight. We're going to loose fit this for now until we get it where we want it. Then we're going to take our little two tiny ones. Use your Allen key. It'll make it easier to get it started. You just got to be careful when you put it in not to cross thread it, because using a tool when you start something like that, it's real easy to cross thread it versus hand starting it, which is what I prefer to do. But if you can't get to it, you can't get to it. There we go. And again, we're going to leave these loose until we move on to the wiring. Okay, now we're on to what seems like a daunting task, but these guys have made it a lot easier. This right here is going to be your relay and your fuse. Your fuse is going to be right inside there. 30 amp fuse. Here's your relay. Now, take your battery terminal, red to positive, black to negative. Pretty simple. I mean, just about anybody can do that. And then you're going to take this relay, and there's some bolts usually up here in your firewall. And what you'll want to do is just mount this out of the way. Somewhere like so. Keep it away from anything hot. Then we're going to take these two leads, which are your leads to your lights. Those leads are going to go over and down to your lights. So you just want to tuck them up tight, out of the way. Again, making sure you're not getting in the way of anything moving, anything like that. Move them around, down, through. Then you take this section of the pigtail, which is your switch, okay? You're going to need to disconnect it right here. Okay, there we go. Now, this section is going to go inside the cab, and I'll take you in there and show you what we're going to do with that. This, you're going to have to feed through, right through here on our firewall. There's an open plug. You go inside the cab, and you just feed this through and come through the cab. Now, another thing you might come into is either having to repin this or cut and splice, because your holes on your firewall are going to be a little bit too small to make it through with this plug. There are some grommets and things like that, but you don't really want to cut and splice through those if you don't have to. So the easiest bet is probably just going to be to resplice these and come through. All right, so now we're inside the Jeep. Yours might be a little different. It's going to be a little different with every vehicle, but if you're working on a late model JK, there's a nice big hole right there, see? That's where you're going to come through. You're going to go down under here, right underneath your glove box, there's a little trough, and you'll just feed it around under your dash to the other side. Okay, now you've come through under your console, and you're going to come into this section right here. This just pops off, and what I would do is drill me a nice little hole, probably right here, somewhere nice. Put your switch tucked and tight out of the way, and away you go. What we're going to do with it, though, is hook it to our existing switch pod that we have, and we'll show you how to do that right now, how you just run the simple easy wires to your switch pod. We're going to have to splice the wire connectors because this has a really nice waterproof wire plug setup, and I want to retain that. So we're just going to splice into that and go with it. I am trying to remove this quick and easy so we can fish the wires underneath. We don't like having wires all up and over, and we like them tucked and tight, so we're going to fish them under this. That way it's all a nice clean install. See, now all you have to do is remove this 10 mil, and then they go underneath instead of over the top. It's just a clean install. You want a nice clean install. You don't want things moving around. These are protected, so they're not gonna get chafed. All right, so we're gonna take these and fish them through so we have a nice clean install up under the bumper.
Just getting past that tight spot.
Okay. There it comes. And number 2. So you'll want to take these and go find a nice spot for them to live out of the way of your winch, anything like that. Come up. There's a really nice spot. Don't go through the grill because you'll have to undo the winch and all that stuff before. So now what we're gonna do here is we're gonna hook these up, and you should always bench test stuff. Before you get too far along in your process, I'm gonna take these right over here. See, these are really, nice waterproof connectors. So, now we'll just back feed that stuff a little bit to get it where we want it. Right about there, looks good for me. Now, we're gonna go over here and we're just gonna do a basic hookup of this thing to test it out. Since we're gonna be hooking it up to our switch pod, we won't need to do that, but we're gonna show you guys how to hook this thing up. Super easy, simple. Okay. Quick little shot with the 10mm. We'll get that out later. What we're gonna do here is black to negative, red to positive. Now, if you don't have a switch pod, this is gonna be how you're doing it, and it's super simple and easy. Again, red to red, black to black. You'll want to tuck all these up with zip ties. Make sure everything's nice and tucked like the previous wiring is, all tucked up and tied out of the way. Try and organize it best you can. Once you start getting so many wires on everything, it's hard to organize, but do the best you can. Okay, so we're hooked up there, hooked up there. Now, at this point, you would hook up your fuse, or not hook it up, just bolt it up or screw it in somewhere. You could even zip tie it if you had to, but it's better to put it on a bolt and get it out of the way. You come over here, you hook your switch back up, power on the switch, power off, power on. You're able to see when it's on, it's illuminated. When it's off, it is not. So, it's a very nice switch setup from these guys. If you don't have a pod set up, hook one of these up. But we're gonna hook the wiring up to our switch pod over there, and we're gonna move on with the setup. So what we're doing here is we're taking the positives together and the negatives together. So we're now one unison setup. Okay? Now, you're gonna come over here to your switch pod. These are really nice to hook up something to. This is just a generic Amazon one, but we hope to maybe hook up something with a little bit of more of a name to it eventually. Come up through the bottom so it's nice and clean. There we go. Now we got ground and the switch. You always want to retest, make sure everything's working properly.
And we have light.
There you go. Yeah, they seem bright.
So in the shade it's like 35 to 50 lux, 1400 at that point, but you got to measure it from at least 50 feet away.
So what does that mean?
Well, at this distance, it's brighter than the sunlight outside.
Okay, so now we've showed you two different ways to install this. With the awesome wiring harness that Nilight sent us with the Pro-Nixmen Series, or you can use a switch pod setup. Now, we left these loose. Don't forget to go back and tighten them up. You're just gonna wanna snug them down, and when you go out later, like follow along with the video, we're gonna go out and show you how these things work in the dark, and then at that point you'll wanna bring your tools with you and do a final adjustment on the trail to get it optimal. You'll wanna point it to where you're seeing downrange and able to see what you're wanting to see. So, stick around, the night run is coming. Standard headlights, brights. These are the new Nilights. These things are crazy. Headlights, fog lights, Nilights. Wow. They stepped up their game. Big improvement. That's all my other lights off other than the Nilights. That's pretty much all I need. You can see way down there, so they're a good spot and flood combo, which is exactly what I was looking for. And I really haven't adjusted them yet. Damn, that's insane. Only the Nilights. So bright. You can't even tell I just turned the headlights on. Wow. Okay, so there you have it. We went out, showed you what they look like on the trail. I felt no final adjustment was necessary. They showed way downrange, plus filled a nice spectrum for us. They really did a really great job with these new Nixmen Series. They're rated at IP68, which I don't think I mentioned before, so they're pretty waterproof. And I really think these things are gonna do well longevity-wise. We'll have to see. They say 50,000 hours. We'll see how many hours we get out of them, see what kind of life. I was pretty impressed with the quality of them. I didn't see any defects. Everything seemed to be pretty nice. I look forward to checking out some more from their Nixmen series. I think some of it is gonna be a lot different than what we're expecting from Nilight. So, if you liked what we did here, leave a comment below. Go check it out. We're gonna leave the Amazon link for these in the description. So go on over to Amazon and check them out, and check out all their lights in their Nilight Nixmen series. So we appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe. And as always, stick around for more.